Well, hey everyone, and welcome to the show. Today I have Ellen, who is the CEO of Do Not Age with me. So welcome to the show, Ellen. It's absolutely lovely to have you.
Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate it.
You are sitting in lovely Florida, which like Florida seems to be the center of longevity. Everything I look at is in Florida. What's up with Florida? It's such a cool place.
There's a lot of longevity clinics here. I think from an American perspective, a lot of people come here to retire. So the average age tends to be a little bit older, and obviously that tends to attract. That's when people start worrying about their health. If people worried about it more when they were younger, they wouldn't have to worry about it as much when they were older.
Exactly, and that's what we're all about, right? No?
Exactly.
So you are the CEO of Do Not Age, which is a fabulous company that I discovered recently. Went, wow, what you guys are doing is just absolutely amazing. Can you give us, before we dive into some of the cool compounds that you use and the stuff that you're doing, give us a little bit of background on yourself. How did you end up here?
Sure. So up until early 2019, I didn't even know that longevity was a thing. I didn't know it existed. So the reason I wasn't working on it before that was because I didn't know it existed.
Yeah, most people don't.
Once I found out it did, I thought, why isn't everybody working on this? Surely this is the most important thing in the world. So started looking into it and connecting with the people that really know what they're talking about, the scientists behind it all. So your Professor Vera Gorbanovas, your David Sinclairs, Brian Kennedy's, and many others, Aubrey de Grey, people like that. So I've got a fantastic network now. I'm very fortunate to be able to.
How the hell did you do that? Can I interrupt you before you go any further? Like you just don't bowl on up and say, hey.
Well, that's exactly what I did. So
you did.
I did. Yeah, I didn't know what you were supposed to do, which is go to these events and buy tickets and go and then try and speak to people when you can. I believe I just use LinkedIn, so I have a LinkedIn profile. It's one of the only social medias that I use. So I started searching for them, and they were responding. And then obviously, once you have a network of a few, you can then say, "Oh, I'd like to speak to this person," and then they put you in touch. And
that's exactly how I've done it too.
Yeah, and so I knew what the consumer problems were in this industry, but I didn't know what the researcher problems were. And so speaking to these people and working with these people allowed me to understand what the problems were for researchers. And number one was funding. So they either couldn't get enough funding, or they could, but it was from a government, and the government would say, you have to spend it on this.
Yeah.
And the government usually doesn't want you to.
Yep.
They certainly don't want you to work on aging. And then, like I say, the number one was funding, number two was flexibility. So and then obviously from a consumer perspective, once I started learning about the supplement industry, I realized just how murky that world is. And not only is there a lack of regulation, but there is a huge lack of enforcement of regulation. So even the small regulation they do have, it's just not enforced by anybody because nobody cares. So in the end, we had to have a consumer facing website where our ingredients from our research were just given direct to consumer, so we miss out the middleman because we couldn't trust any supplement manufacturers with our ingredients, which is sad, but they were the problem. So from a consumer perspective, they need it to be high quality and trustworthy, but also the real key for our huge growth has been only providing what actually works.
Yeah.
One of the other things with these supplement sellers, rather than being a research organization like us, is that their main goal, their main focus is profit. So because of that, they will sell whatever people will buy, which means they don't care if it works. Basically, if you buy it, they'll sell it. Whereas at Do Not Age, we only provide what works, and I think that's why people are warm to us.
Yeah, and in your philosophy of getting it to people at a reasonable price, and working with top quality researchers, your advisory board is very impressive, and I'm doing stuff in the space. Full transparency, do have supplements in my range and things that I'm doing and working on others, and it is a minefield of problems, and getting the advisory board that you've got is impressive, and the people that you're working with.
Well, if you need any
impressive.
If you need any assistance, or if you want help with manufacturing, we're happy to help. So
excellent. Definitely. We'll talk about that off here.
Sorry.
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah. I'm a baby in this space, but Definitely, because I know like there is some fantastic compounds out there, and I've gone out and, you know, I've got a curated anti-aging and longevity range. This is stuff that I went and got for my mum, and I went, oh, why the hell am I not just sharing this stuff with the world, right? Including Do Not Age, and that's coming now into our range shortly. And I've gone and curated this amazing range, but bloody hell, it's hard. I got like, I don't know, 20, 30 suppliers, and you're juggling shipping and currency and conversions, and, you know, behind the scenes, it's a bloody, you know, it's a big beast, especially when you're a small company trying to do 100 things at once. And so I'm like, hang on a minute, you know, I've got to change the model up a little bit here, and have some things that we are doing ourselves. So that's the goal for this year. Whether we'll pull it off or not, we'll see. But I know, and I've felt in my own body, because I'm a biohacking fiend, right? I've, you know, test things out on myself before I do anything anywhere else. And my family, you know, my mum has the best of the best, you know, she gets whatever she needs. I don't care sort of what I spend on her within my, you know, limitations that I have. She gets the best of the best, you know. I have the best doctors, I have the best products, I have the best everything for her to make sure that she stays on the side of the world, you know, like alive. And when you're in those desperate states, when your loved ones are sick, or when you've faced an illness, you will do anything to stay healthy. And I think that's what drives our passion, right?
Exactly. And you've been through it yourself, haven't you? And you've seen that prevention is so much easier than cure. Cure is difficult. But the problem is trying to get somebody that's already healthy to listen is tough, because they're like, I'm healthy, I don't need to listen. And it's like, you are now, but it's a matter of time, you know?
Yeah, because we are extremely complicated, and the more I study, you know, biology and biochemistry and things, it's just like, holy shit, how are any of us alive? You know, like your methylation's not working well. You know, things are backing up. You know, you've got you're missing one amino acid. The stuff's not being made, or, you know, there's any myriad of things I could quote here.
Not, of course.
Yeah, it's so easy, and we're living in a toxic soup, and we're living in an environment that our ancestors certainly didn't live in, and we want to live longer than our ancestors lived. You know, I don't plan on exiting now that I'm, you know, going through menopause and, you know, meant to bugger off this planet. I'm not ready. So I'm going to fight to stay here.
No, you should. So you should. And I think one of the things it's important to note as well is that for the listeners out there, some of them think, oh yeah, well, you know, I don't want to live to, if you ask most people, do they want to live to 120? They say no, because they think of what a 120-year-old might look like and feel like. The idea is to look and feel 30 at 120. That's the goal. And
then people say to you, that's impossible, Ellen. That's never going to happen. And what do you say to that?
I used to think the same thing. And now we have hundreds of thousands of members that are doing just that with Do Not Age.org products. So, you know, the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah. And we can test the stuff now, like, you know, the great biological, the clocks that you can, you know, test your chronological age versus your biological age, and that's refining every year and getting more and more sophisticated. We can see whether that we're actually moving the needle, you know, and being able to test, okay, I'm 10 years younger on this clock than my actual biological age. I've just bought myself a decade, you know, and that's gold. You know, and if you're not so good, well, that's a bit of a wake-up call to pull your socks up and do some things.
It is, and we even have more direct testing now as well. So we have an NAD test kit that's available on our website. We have the biological age as well, but the biological age is affected by so many different things. It's environment, it's this toxic soup you're talking about, it's your diet, it's your lifestyle, it's everything. Whereas when you take that NAD test, because you can have such a direct impact on your intracellular NAD level with things like supplementation, that it's much better in terms of a short term, and by short term I mean within 12 months. It's a much better, more tangible marker of how you're progressing.
Yeah, absolutely. And these sorts of testing things are now available to us, and we can do that. I want to get that test, actually. That would be cool. And you've identified a whole range of compounds that I wanted to, you know, discuss briefly with you. And I know, you know, it'd be great to be talking to Vera on the intricacies of some of these, Professor Vera, like on some of the intricacies of that. But, you know, for at our level, You've got things like calcium alpha-ketoglutarate, you've got hyaluronic acids, you've got Sirt6, you've got urolithin A. Those are compounds, or those anti-Sulforaphane boost and Fisetin. Those are all things that I'm like, wow, this is a really cool combination that you've got going on. Plus, you've got the usual, the NAD boosters and the things like that. But tell me a little bit about, calcium alpha-ketoglutarate. That's only come on my radar recently, really, and through you guys. So what's that one about? Tell us a little bit about that.
It's boosting the molecule alpha-ketoglutarate, which is involved in the Krebs cycle, which is your energy cycle. And you can just take alpha-ketoglutarate itself. Usually it comes in like an arginine form, but it doesn't boost it particularly well. So we have the calcium salt version, CAAKG, and that seems to work the best. And what we see, I mean, the most important thing, the things people really care about is what it does for them. And although there's no human data on this yet, one of the key things they found in mice was the graying fur turned back to dark brown or black fur.
Bloody hell, that's awesome, because graying here.
Yeah, exactly. And we have had lots of reports from Do Not Age members saying the same thing. But again, there's no human clinical trials on that, so we can't make any guarantees on that. But it makes things like stronger bones, helps to increase your glutathione levels in the brain, particularly. So yeah, it's very, very popular. And it's interesting because for some ingredients, we see certain pockets of the world. So Australia might order a lot of this product, and America might order a lot of Sirtuin Activator and whatever else. But with CAAKG, it's very popular everywhere. So that's that's something interesting that we noticed.
Yeah, and like one of the most popular blog posts on my website is how to reverse graying hair, all the stuff, and because NAD precursors and things can help with that as well. So the CAAKG, that's really gold, because there's another thing we can put in, and as someone who's got grey hairs coming, it's like, hurry up, guys, work the stuff out.
Well, that's the other thing as well from, the feedback we're getting from the Do Not Age members. Most of them are already taking an NAD booster as well.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a combination of the two. We don't know.
Yeah, and this is, like I'm guilty of throwing a ton of stuff in the mix, right? And you don't, like if you did one thing after the other, as in, the sort of clinical research model, you'd never get anywhere. And it's the synergy sometimes. You're missing out on the synergy of
and you're
these
aging
things
every day. And this is why we test everything before it hits the market. So we test it individually in humans, and then of course we test it with our current members who are already taking at the rest of our range to make sure there's no contraindications.
Yeah. And these are all generally recognized as safe grass thing, they've got that certification in the States and stuff. So, it's generally recognized as safe. And then from there you can build on the research, because, I mean, unfortunately, when the supplement industry, there's not a lot of, like you say, funding is an issue. So unless it's going to be a drug and they take it for drug discovery, which then lost it to the supplement world anyway, it's not going to get the funding generally. Like, it's really hard to get the funding. How have you guys managed to do that? Because you do a lot of research and you do. So, how the hell do you do that?
So the mission is to extend healthy lifespan for as many people as possible. I know you're aware, like the second half is just as important to us as the first half, for as many people as possible. That's why we try to keep prices down. But we do obviously still make a margin, and that margin goes towards funding research, whether that's our own or whether we fund other people's. At first it was just our own, and then we realized, we don't have the resources to do all the research needed. So the best thing to do is do funding. And there are some laboratories that come to us that are already well funded, and they just need our ingredients. So Urolithin A, Sulforaphane, Sirtuin Activator, you can't get these really important molecules anywhere other than Do Not Age. So people come to us.
Absolutely impressive what you've achieved in such a short period of time, and the numbers of people and stuff, so I can learn a lot from you guys, definitely. So the Sirtuin, that's another one that was relatively new to me. And so what's going on with Sirtuin? What's that doing?
So Professor Gorbanova and I were sort of brainstorming a few years ago, and we were discussing Sirtuins, and in particular Sirtuin. It was Vera's opinion, and I agreed, that Sirtuin 6 is the most important for health and longevity. We see that across the studies. We see, centenarians, super centenarians, they have really active Sirtuin. That's pretty much well agreed across all the scientists. So if Sirtuin 6 is the most important Sirtuin for health and longevity, then, and we have tens of millions of people taking resveratrol, which activates Sirtuin 1, also very important Sirtuin, then why do we not have something that directly activates Sirtuin 6?
Yeah.
So the quest began to find something that, you know, wasn't a pharmaceutical, so it didn't have any downsides or negatives. It was only positive, came from a food source, something that was healthy for everyone, and it had a really strong activation of Sirt6. There are lots of things out there that have a small activation of Sirt6, and most seaweeds, because that's where we get Sirt6 activator from. But we'll go into that in a second. There's something in blueberries that does it a little bit as well, but none of it enough to make an impact. It's the same as trying to exercise to keep your NAD levels high. Like it's just, you know, it's just not gonna cut the mustard. So yeah, eventually we found the Fucus vesiculosus. It was a really strong activator, and then we obviously, as we went through the round of testing, we found that it wasn't. And so we went back to the Gorbunova lab and said, look, we got this sample, and then we realized that not all Fucus vesiculosus activates Sirtuin 6.
Wow.
So it's a bit of a pain. So every time we have to go around the world and, you know, harvest all this different seaweed from all different parts of the world, corners of the globe, send them to Gorbunova's lab. And then the team there will assess them for Sirt6 activation on an assay.
So every batch has to be done like that sort of thing.
And then thankfully we've just found a really good hit and harvested a huge batch. So we're good at the moment, but it means that it's not, you know, defined.
It's not necessarily in every bunch of the same seaweed all over the planet.
Exactly.
Some of it.
So sometimes we'll get 10 samples and there'll be no hits, and we have to start again.
You know, and you've just traveled around the world collecting all these things. Jeez.
Exactly. It's a bit of a pain, but it's, you know, keeps us busy.
Dedication. Yeah, because I haven't seen Sirt6 on the market anywhere else, like as a single molecule that you can, you know, take.
Exactly. Well, it's our best seller by a long margin. You know, it's one that people really feel. Obviously, we had the mouse trials we did with it, and unbelievable results. I mean, Professor Gorbunova's a true scientist. She never gets excited about anything. She's just very much data. And she rings me up and she's jumping out of her chair. She's like, "We got to get this in humans quick. This is incredible. Look what they're doing. And these mice, they're running around. They should be dead." And, you know.
So tell us of that research. You know, like did they extend lifespan in the mouse?
So obviously we had the control group, and they aged as you would expect mice to age. And then we started with middle-aged mice. So they're already seeing some signs of aging. And the hope was that Sirt6 activator would pause the aging, or at least slow it in those mice that were taking it, and then the placebo group would be normal. And what we actually saw was a complete reversal of the middle-aged mice into young mice. And it was absolutely incredible. So
reversal.
Yeah.
Don't hear that very often.
Yeah. And they didn't get things like cancer and lots of other age-related diseases. So Vera said, we've got to get this in humans. It's a little tougher in humans because you have to have a more specific outcome. And
we live long, so it's a bit hard to test us.
And of course, this one's going to take forever. But I was really pleased when I spoke to Vera and said, well, what do you suggest? You know, you're the expert. What do you suggest? And she said, we should give Sirt6 activator to people that have been through chemotherapy and had cancer, because I believe Sirt6 activator will stop the recurrence of tumors in those people. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. So that's underway at the moment. Obviously, it's going to take several years before that one comes out, but we're super excited about that.
That's amazing to even like for her to have that, you know, like the mechanism of action that could possibly, how this could possibly work. Is already a positive sign, right? Even though that we you know, we've got the research to do and that's going to take its time, but that's very interesting as someone who's dealing with a, you know, mum having had cancer 18 months ago.
Yeah, you'll have to speak to the team and get them to send you some out.
Yeah. Look, I've got Sirt6 in the cupboard already, but I haven't put it in with mum. I've been taking it myself because I wasn't sure. But now,
you should.
You know, because with cancer cases, you want to be careful. You know, you don't want to be pushing on certain pathways. You know, like glutathione pathway or something like that at the wrong time, at the wrong thing. So you know, you've got to be a little bit more cautious with someone who has cancer. But if you're researching it for that particular thing of non-recurrence, that sounds really exciting.
The official line is speak to your doctor. But
yeah, of course.
If it were my mother, she'd be taking.
You'd be doing it. That's very, very interesting, and I'll be digging more into that. Because there's not a lot of, this is the thing, you know, like we've got to take risks sometimes, because especially like when mum was diagnosed with cancer and they said that you've got like 8 weeks or something that you can expect to live, and it's very aggressive, and you know there's nothing we can do, then you're willing to throw the bus at it, right? And I went full bore, so that was, you know, overkill, massive amount of money that I spent and down rabbit holes, and you know, some of it was a waste of time, others not. But within 12 weeks, we got rid of the tumors and we've been able to maintain. You know, you never want to say, because we can only test by MRI. So we have to wait every 6 months to see if it's reoccurred or what's the situation. But the clinical, you know, just clinical observations, she's functioning perfectly normal, whereas before there was, you know, whole right side of her face was dropped. She was unable to process anything. She couldn't do anything normal, right? So I know that she's at least not that situation. And so you have to take risks sometimes when you're at the end of life, and you should be able to, like, you like throw the bus at things to try out things. It's actually one of the laws I want to change in this country.
Well, the other risk, the other thing is, if you don't do anything, that's a risk in itself, isn't it?
Exactly. So, yep.
You know, you can look back through human history. Every single person that's tried to live forever has failed miserably.
Yeah, none of us have made it forever.
So, you know, I think, because of the advances in science and technology now, we know these things. You know, we know activating Sirtuins, we know the power of it. Obviously, prevention is always going to be easier than cure. So, you know, people taking it before they get these ailments, then that's fine. But it's once they've got the ailments is where it can get tricky, because, like you say, there's certain things you don't want to exacerbate anything. You don't want to make it worse, and that's why we're so careful with the testing at Do Not Age.
Yeah, make sure absolutely. And it does need to go through
as few as possible downsides.
Yeah. And it has to go through its proper testing and stuff, but that's very promising. And then let's look at the Urolithin A. I actually, you know, Urolithin A has been on my radar for a while now too.
Yes.
Tell me about that one.
Former endurance athlete. So
yeah, I wish I'd had it back then.
Yeah, Urolithin A. It's like the legal PED, right?
Yeah, maybe I can start my career again.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think the body is one very complex, but one functioning organ, really. So they all feed into each other. Like Sirtuin activator, people have more energy. Maybe it's because your inflammation's lower. I don't know. But, you know, NMN, or NR, a lot of people see that boost in NAD, and that gives them maybe not energy, but allows them to perform at their peak for longer. And then things like Urolithin A, which we see help with recovery in a huge way. Like, you know, if you're somebody that's going to the gym, working hard, and then you want to be able to bounce back and go the next morning again, Urolithin A is just a bit of a magic bullet for that, because it works on the muscle mitochondria. It also seems to be good for gut health as well. So, but it's a new one for us. It's only been out for about a month. So all the trials obviously went very well, otherwise it wouldn't have made it to the website. But we are currently in the process of scaling that up. It's on pre-order at the moment. We can't actually make it fast enough to keep up with the orders.
More order, please.
But yeah, if people subscribe, the subscribers always get first dibs, because, you know, that makes sense from a business perspective. So if people want to receive it ASAP, then they can subscribe. If you're happy to wait a few weeks, then just place an individual order, and it will be shipped as soon as we can make it. And then what's going to happen in 2 or 3 months is we're going to see that feedback and start to see if that reflects what we saw in the testing.
And what did you see in the testing with Urolithin A?
So mostly, I mean, obviously, first of all, we're looking at safety.
Endurance. And safety first always,
But mostly in terms of muscle endurance, we're looking at people that exercised every day or at least regularly. And the biggest benefits we've seen in those that really push themselves. So whether it's an endurance athlete, somebody who does long distance cycling, or somebody who tries to lift really heavy weights, or whatever it may be, they didn't say that they were like more powerful or faster than they were before, but they said they could perform, you know, longer. At the top for longer. And
so all the ultra runners listening to my podcast,
yeah,
Urolithin
A is already huge in the cycling world, because obviously everyone in the cycling world has been looking for alternatives since Mr. Armstrong got caught, and it kind of unraveled it, and then they realized everybody was on it, and it was like, okay, well, how do we have some advantages that are legal? And so that's why I think it's already huge in the cycling industry.
Yeah, and it's sort of certified, what do you call it, NSAF or whatever the certification, all of that sort of jazz is. Very good. And I think it has other properties too. Off the top of my head, I can't remember, but I remember one of my teachers who's brilliant doctor, and she was like, you have to get your mum on Urolithin A. And I'm like, I'm trying to find it. And that's actually one of the, I think that might be how I discovered you guys.
We're here to help. We're here to help.
Yeah. So that's great. Sulfora boosts, like sulforaphane. I do my own broccoli seed sprouting and stuff like that. I've seen the impact of this. Very good anti-cancer workings. Yeah, we're not allowed to claim anything. Don't take that wrong. Medical advice, all of that sort of stuff. But I take it for that. Also for getting the right type of estrogen, like pushing down the right pathways in estrogen metabolism, so that you're pushing down the CYP1A1 pathway more than the CYP1B1, which is more inflammatory. I use that a lot with clients that I'm working with hormones to try to get more of that. And sulforaphane has just got a long list of benefits as well.
Yeah, so there's a couple of tests that once we realize what works and what we want to launch, there's then 2 tests that has to pass before we launch it. One, can we increase the quality of what's already available on the market? Usually quite easy because of the poor regulation and state of the supplement industry. And 2, if not, can we match it and beat the price so that it's available to more people? So for example, we mentioned Urolithin A. There was already a product on the market that was very good quality.
Yep, there is a good quality one.
Once you have the highest purity, you can't beat that. So we match that, and then we managed to bring the price down. So it makes it, there's no socioeconomic barriers.
Excellent.
But with Sulfora Boost, we knew we could beat what was already on the market. But there were lots of good players, and of course 99% of bad players. But the good ones there was Avmacol, wasn't too bad. Brock was probably the leader at the time. So basically it was about how do we produce more sulforaphane than those. And so through the testing process, we managed to do that, and Sulfora Boost was born. I don't think Sulfora Boost is as popular as it should be for how powerful it is, but
which is surprising.
Well, we've not done any marketing spend as a company because, as I say, we're focusing on the research. We started doing like Google ads.
That's a minefield, isn't it? Bloody hell.
Thankfully that's someone else's job.
That's my job as well.
So we only started that about 6 weeks ago, and it's it's a couple of $100 a month or something. So it's nothing major, but the problem is when you don't have a marketing spend, that's not how you drive your business. You're relying on word of mouth, and so a lot of and I think Sulfora Boost is one of those that people maybe don't feel working, whereas things like Sirtuin, Activator, NMN, Urolithin A, when you have these direct, I've taken this, now I feel this.
Unfortunately
for that to spread by word of mouth.
And that's unfortunate, actually, because it's not just symptoms that we're trying to deal with here. It's underlying biological processes. And this is like, I bang my head on the wall sometimes with education, trying to educate people. And I think in New Zealand, we're even behind, certainly behind the 8 ball in the medical world, but also in the supplement space. Whereas you're trying to explain to somebody, what does Sulfora Boost do? What does hyaluronic acid do? What are, Alpha-Ketoglutarate? What are these things actually doing? And some of them you'll get immediate effects. So then you've won that person over. And then what often happens is that they stop feeling it after a little while, and they think it stopped working. And that's not the case either. And as an ultra marathon runner who's pushed through boundaries and, also work with mum with their rehabilitation, I know that those are the plateaus that are sent to test you, but you're meant to push through those, and you're meant to just keep on going. And that's like the title of my book is Relentless for a reason, because if you just relentlessly keep taking the steps, whether you're seeing the progress or not, you will get to the goal. The person who goes is always measuring, I don't feel anything. I hopped in the hyperbaric today and I didn't come out jumping out of my skin and feeling like I'm healed. It's like, we
get some people that will try, 60 capsules of NR and take it for a month and then go, I don't feel any different. And it's like, how old are you? And they'll say, 53. And I'm like, okay, so you've been aging for 53 years and you want me to reverse you back to 18 in 1 month. It's not going to happen. These things take time, and it is. That's the reason we have the subscription model, because it's something that you're supposed to keep taking and taking and taking. And for the people that don't want to do that, that's fine. But if they want to miss out on benefits, that's completely up to them.
It's frustrating.
We're not trying to convince anybody, but what we're trying to do is put the information out there.
Yeah, I am. I was like, trying to get people like even the arguments, I split my supplement recommendations into two groups. One is just replacing the food, what's missing in our food chain, like, the magnesiums and vitamin Ds and K2s and things, the zinc and the selenium and things that are just missing because our food supply is crap. And then I've got supplements that support the detox processes because we're surrounded by toxins. And then I've got the longevity anti-aging stuff that's actually going to be working to reverse aging, slow aging, promoting you
having all of those.
Yeah, you have all of them. That's the cool thing with you. It's like, wow, you got a bit of everything going on.
It's a one-stop shop.
Yeah, it is. And you've got the sexy cool stuff. It's not just the baseline stuff, but splitting that out to people. And this is another thing when I was talking about, there's a supplement that I'm trying to work on at the moment. And I'm like, people have a resistance to taking a ton of pills, but if you gave them a scoop of powder that had everything in it, they wouldn't blink an eye.
We've come up against this, and I think we've identified what it is.
What is it? It's
because pharmaceuticals and medication obviously usually come with a ton of downsides. And look, I'm not not a natural healer or anything like that, where I'm completely against medicine. Not at all. No. But if you should, one of the big differences is when you're taking medicine, you should take it for a set period of time, and then when you're healed, you don't take it again. That's very different to a dietary supplement, which tends to be ad infinitum, particularly from a do not age perspective. So when people take medication, they're used to having side effects and say, look, it will stop this, but you're also going to feel nauseous and whatever else, right?
Yeah.
And so because of that, people are, I don't want to take too many pills, which is fine when it's medication.
Yes.
But what we're trying to help people to see is that dietary supplements are a part of your diet.
Yeah.
So
these are from food groups, this is extracted
if you take
from food.
20 dietary supplement capsules, it's just like saying, oh, I'm not having all those peas, or I'm not having all that broccoli, right? So because they look similar to pharmaceuticals, I think people have
they're white powders usually, or some kind of powder. But if I gave you a scoop of whey protein and stuck it and said, have your protein smoothie, people don't blink an eyelid, and actually it's the same thing. Like I have this fabulous product, Perfect Aminos, from Dr. David Minkoff, Body Health. Great product. I have all my athletes on it and people that are recovering and surgery, love it. I just happened to put into the mix the one that was a tablet form. He has a powder form as well, but I can't stock both. Having too many SKUs, as is difficult. And so I've only got that one that I've imported, right? And people go, that's 10 tablets I've got to have a day. And I'm like, it's the equivalent of one scoop of protein, but it's way better than a scoop of protein, by the way, because it's got all the amino acids in it and much more absorbable and so on and so forth. But the resistance thing. And so, my thoughts is that if you could stick it into, a sachet that's got everything in it, and there's maybe an idea for you guys, that's your breakfast drink, you have it or whatever, and it's got a bit of all that in.
This is one of the problems why we've not gone down that route yet, is because a lot of things need to be taken at different times of the day. Some need fat, some need to be fasted. So that's the main reason. It is hard. But we have done where possible and where things are complementary, we have done them. So for example, vitamin D, vitamin K, and magnesium. That's in a nice easy capsule.
And those things are like, that's your baseline stuff. Get that anyway, and really reasonable.
Like you say, it's just because the soil and the food is just so depleted now.
Disaster.
It's sad that we have to provide that one as a supplement, actually.
Yeah, it is. And like magnesium is like 300 enzymatic processes in the body don't function when you don't have magnesium. And there's a ton of different types of magnesium, and then there's so much nuance to things. But
and that's the thing, like NAD is one that's sort of linked to like 400 processes, equally as important as magnesium, potentially even more. And yet everybody's heard of magnesium and not everybody's heard of NAD. And so that's why I think that's another education piece that we're working on at the moment.
And it's how are you, yeah, like, as a company that started out, you've started with the research, you've started with the right compounds, trying to beat the stuff on the market from quality perspective, from a price perspective, getting the right advisors on board, the right scientists, the right laboratories behind you, and haven't focused on the marketing so much, you know, and your marketing, I like it because it's like simple. It's not, you know, like when you get like super flash packaging and super flash things, it always makes me think, there's a hell of a lot of money going into that.
Well, look at most online shops in general. That we're not selling fidget spinners here, so everybody's selling the same rubbish they're buying from China or whatever it is, and then it's just about who can make the flashiest website to sell it to you. We don't really have anyone that's marketing minded, so we couldn't, even if we wanted to. So we just focus on providing what actually works, and then let the consumers talk to each other and tell each other about us.
So you've just really grown organically like that. That's really interesting, because
and it's
got 100,000 cool
as well. Yeah, we've got a few 100,000. We're the largest NMN supplier in the world. We're catching up on NR as well. Obviously, we've got our novel ingredients like Sirtuin Activator, which is just flies off the shelves, which is great and helps so many people in so many different countries. And I think one of the things I personally would like to do is hopefully try and change the industry as much as possible and be an inspiration to other companies to start saying, okay, well, maybe if we did the right thing, we could also succeed like Do Not Age has.
Yeah, well, I'm putting my hand up. I'm definitely going to learn from you guys, you know. And I think it's important because in the world, and the regulations and things are changing too. And what we don't want is, we don't want to lose a lot of these things to drugs, to pharmaceutical companies, you know, like if we can keep it in the supplement space and do things correctly, and, you know, it's a big beast, but
that's it. And I think it's up to consumers as well. Like consumers should vote with their feet. And if you only support the organizations that are doing the right thing, then not only will that support the good organizations, but the bad organizations will either be forced to do the right thing or go out of business. So I'm praying that the consumers keep doing the right thing.
Yeah, it's absolutely. And you know, like with your personal experience, was there what did you get into the space? You know, like it just came up on your radar and you're just the biohacker, and, you know, or was there a story behind yours?
I had over a decade traveling around the world. Alcohol, women, guns, violence, drugs wasn't the most ethical, moral, human. Lots of good experiences and plenty of bad, but ultimately it left my body aged before its time.
Wow.
So I was trying to look for a solution for that, and I didn't know it was aged at the time. I just thought it was damage, but then you kind of realize they're the same thing.
And you look like a fresh face, just out of college kid.
Thank you. So yeah, hopefully those supplements are doing something.
Obviously are. And, you know,
I've had lots of lifestyle changes as well, though.
Yeah. Diet and exercise and all that.
Still a few that I could improve upon. I still fly and travel too often. I don't sleep well enough. But aside from that, diet's a lot better than it was. I do resistance training now. I've not long got back from the gym. So, you know, lots of things that we now know are very closely associated with longevity that when I was younger, I just thought, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Like everybody else, as soon as I felt the effects of aging, it slapped me in the face and made me wake up.
Yeah, when you did wake up, that's the thing. A lot of people just go, oh, well, the argument, we can't slow aging, and there's nothing we can do about it. And it's just like, that's what
I would have said if someone had asked me in 2018. I would have said the same. I would have looked at them like they had two heads.
Yeah.
It was only a few years before that I lived in New Zealand. I used to live in Auckland. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Hopefully it was a good experience, not a bad one.
No, it was good.
It's a lovely country most of the time. It's good. But that's a real big turnaround for the books, you know, like that's a huge shift in mentality. And obviously you've done a hell of a lot of work on yourself to get to that point and to make that shift. And I always like diving into the backstories of people, because it helps you understand the drivers and the motivation behind that person's mission in life. And, you know, like some of the best doctors are ones that have come through the medical system, and then they've been working in that field for ages, and then gone, hang on a minute, I've got like either their own personal medical problem, or a loved one's got a problem, and they've realized that the stuff that they're doing isn't working. And then they've gone and dug deeper into the weeds and gone, hang on a minute, I wasn't getting the full story here. And then, gone down some rabbit hole, depending on whatever the case may be. And it was woken up. And of course, they've got that medical training too, or whatever. Or you got crazy people like me who smash the crap out of their bodies for decades. And then, had always like the David Goggins mentality of, go hard or go home all the time. And I don't agree with that now. I actually think, no, that's great for a 20-year-old boy to hear. It's not so great for a 45 woman, mother of three, with a career and hormone problems.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about balance as well. I certainly believe in pushing your body to limits when exercising, but, not all the time every day. There needs to be rest periods as well.
Yeah, and you age quicker if you do that. Like, I have aged my body from doing some of the stuff that I've done. And I mean, I'm 54 now, and I'm trying to unravel, some pretty serious damage done to things like kidneys and stuff like that, fertility, couldn't have children, there's a lot of implications that come along with that extreme sport mentality. And I think especially for women, more so than men, because we have beautiful, delicate hormone households that need to be taken into account as well. And if you don't, you might end up with, like me, unable to have kids. And that's sad. That's sad for me, obviously, but it's now it's like, you look back and you go, oh, okay, yeah, well, that makes a hell of a lot of sense. And now what can I do to repair some of the damage, some of the stuff?
Well, that'll be interesting for your story as well then. So if you could start helping give people access to NAD boosters like the NMN or NR from Do Not Age, then, we know what that does to the oocytes, and we've seen people that have been told that they can't have children, then have children. And, we've seen women, reverse the menopause, as it were, and start spotting again and things like that. So I think that's going to be a good part of
that's quite exciting. All that David Sinclair research, I mean, I've been on NMN for 2 years now, I suppose. And it's definitely helped. I'm still cycling, and irregular but cycling, and things haven't dropped off a cliff, and I still support with hormones as well, like I work on both sides of the fence, so to speak. But I often say to my husband, you never know. You never know. We'll keep practicing anyway. And NMN, like all of those NAD boosters are really, really good, I think, for hormone for guys and girls. I've heard, clients, say that they've got a lot more energy in the bedroom and things like that. That's important too, all of that sort of side of life. You don't want to lose all that just because you've hit 50 and it's like, Exactly. So there's a lot of good reasons.
They're the kind of benefits that we're discouraged from putting on the website, but a lot of the feedback we get,
Anecdotally, I'm getting that feedback too. Yeah, and people's hair turning, dark again or blonde again or whatever they were previously. Yeah. And that's so
and you'll start, like I say, you'll start getting more and more of these, just like we did. And obviously we still do, it's just a huge scale now. But I still remember those days when I would check the emails myself and we would hear about people saying, oh, my dad or my grandma been on the sofa for 5 years, not been able to get off it. Now she just walk around the living room, like the lounge. Next week she's hoping to like do a walk around the block just because of your products. And it's like, that's
Isn't
what
that gold?
That's just what starts taking tracks, and you're like, Jesus, this is.
Yeah, like, I mean, I live and die for that stuff. Like, yesterday I had, I think, 4 messages from clients that you'd impacted, and some of them like, thank you so much for that podcast on XYZ, and it's changed my life and this, and you're just like, oh, okay, because sometimes you're sitting there like, and you must feel like this too when you're driving hard and you're working like a maniac and you're like, what the hell am I doing with my life? Could be sitting on a beach somewhere.
Well, that's it. And sometimes everybody can get wrapped up in what they're doing that day or that particular stress. And I'll always remember as well, because obviously I don't, I'm not in the office anymore. Our headquarters are in the UK, even though we've got operations in the US, Australia, and globally.
Wow.
But I'm currently in Florida, as I mentioned earlier, and looking at the US operation out here. But one of the things I always remember from when I used to work in the headquarters back in the UK was we had a DHL driver once come and pick the stuff up, and he was in a massive rush, and you could see he was like not the normal driver. They drafted someone in, and he came. He's like, "Yeah, I've got to go. And it was all a bit of a melee. I could see out my window, and I was having a bit of a stressful day and weighed down by various different things. Then 2 days later, we start getting some of our customers were going, "Where's my order?
Here's my order."
Click the tracking link. It just doesn't even say picked up. Where is it? Turned out this guy that was in a rush was on, like, he trying to take a call or something while he was driving his truck, and just boom into the back of a car, dead. So we saw him 30 minutes before he died.
Oh my God.
And then it was one of those things that sort of slaps you in the face, and it's like, maybe my stressful day isn't the worst thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's more important things in that, and also slowing down, and not because stress affects all of the aging.
It's the most aging thing, and that, I think, is the hardest day when you're, like the CEO of a big operation, or you're a very small team, and you're trying to do 1,000 things. In my case,
and this goes back to what I was saying earlier about this is why it's not worth. I don't believe it's worth trying to convince anybody of anything. I think you should just put the information out there and let people do what they want with it, because it isn't worth the stress. I promise you.
Yeah.
It isn't worth the stress.
Yeah, like I've been trying to qualify more my clients that I work one-on-one and with, so that if they come through my podcast, I know they're one of my people, right? They get what I'm talking about already, as they wouldn't be on my doorstep. If they, like, I work with corporate teams, and sometimes the bosses say, "You'll be doing this program," and those ones are really like pulling teeth. Okay, sometimes some of them are great, but most of them are like, "Oh, I've been told to be here by the management, and what am I going to learn from you?" And you've just got this brick wall for starters, and it's like, why am I doing this? Like, I'm throwing these pearls of wisdom that I've fought for bloody years, and I'm laying them at your feet, and you have no idea of the value of the stuff I'm just presenting to you.
I feel your pain. Honestly, the best thing to do is just only speak to those that want to be spoken to. That's the best way to do it. That's the best way to do it.
Generally, that's what we're working towards. That's exactly what we're working towards, because you just lose your energy. Like, there's nothing more inspiring than for me, like, to sit and talk to you now and make this recording, help people understand some of these beautiful chemicals and compounds that we're working with. That just floats my boat, and I run away buzzing for the rest of the day. Right? It's when you've got someone who's skeptical and
we'll have to apologize to the listeners and the viewers, because we didn't do any prep for this. We just said let's just have a chat. So,
but I love it, because this show is also about the it's real. It's like real life. It's the greatest minds, the greatest things, and here's the reality, and here's the pros and the cons, and it's business as well. Like business, the stresses of business, the stresses of life. It's not about presenting a rosy, perfect picture that we've got it all sussed and we're going to tell you guys how to live.
Certainly not all sussed. We're making good headway.
Yeah, we're enjoying the process. So coming back into line, you've got Fisetin as another really interesting compound. This is a senolytic that helps get rid of senescent cells, and it's one probably that we cycle more than just taking all the time. Or how do you approach that?
No, so there's not actually any data to support that. This is one of those things that goes around on the internet. I certainly don't agree with it. I know that David doesn't either. He takes it every day.
Yep.
But I take mine every day. I've not seen any data that supports
that you have to get rid of senolytics, and then, because there is some senolytic activity that can possibly be positive in some of the latest research. Again,
there is, but the vast majority of people, one of the things we're actually trying to develop at the moment is a measure of
senolytic. Wow.
It's really proving difficult. We wanted to launch it in 2022, so as you can imagine, it's proven very difficult. But we are still working on that, just the same as we're working on an inflammatory marker test kit as well. But that's probably how we're going to have to. We're probably going to have to put them together, because that's the best way to measure senescence, really. it's through the inflammatory markers. But anyway, that's by the by. I personally take 1 capsule a day of Fisetin or Fisetin, however you want to pronounce it. People that are a little bit older tend to take 2 a day. I understand the Mayo protocol is out there, and obviously the Mayo Clinic is very prestigious. If people want to take a much higher dose, some people take up to like 10 grams in a day, which, you know, that's up to them. But then they'll take it for a few days of the month and then not again. Or some people take, you know, 2 or 3 grams for a week. For 2 days in a week, and then nothing for the rest of the week.
We don't know.
The reality is we don't know which one is the best. I just don't see any data to support why you wouldn't take it every day.
And keeping that senolytic load in the body down. I mean, we do know that older people have a much higher senolytic load. And there are some proxy sort of markers that I like to look at, and, you know, MCH and MCV and you know, even the red cell distribution width and things to look at, as well as your inflammatory markers like your HSCRP and your homocysteine levels and things that can just give us some indications on inflammatory markers on senescent cell.
Another interesting one we've done with Sirtuin Activator, just nipping back to that as well. So because it's like the most powerful anti-inflammatory I've ever seen. Things like CRP are just lowered so much with use of Sirtuin Activator.
Wow, that's fantastic. And senolytics, I think, you know, this is a really big anti-aging thing that you can do to lessen the load. I mean, rapamycin is the drug, very, you know, that's very been around for a long time and being used. But this is a natural thing that we can do and we can get access to.
We've recently funded a rapamycin study, actually, because and this is also kind of showing what we're about, because obviously we're never going to be able to sell rapamycin.
I was going to say,
pharmaceutical drug, but we think it's the right thing to do because the early results look good. I don't personally take it. I wouldn't, because it's an immunosuppressant and that scares the hell out of me. I want my immune system to be super strong, but
at higher doses, and again, I think it's a dosage dependent. Like I am on it, and Mum was on it, but we're on a weekly, very low minimal dose, just to help with as well as the Fisetin.
That is one where it makes sense to take it intermittently rather than every day, because it would be immunosuppressant. But until I see more safety data, particularly, I'm not going to go near it. And the way for me to see more data is to fund the trial. So that's what it is.
Even though you're never going to be able to sell that, that's gold. That's great. Well, amazing. And you got also collagen peptides. Why should people think about putting collagen in the mix?
Well, I mean, it's one of the most important frameworks in the body.
It's everywhere, isn't it? Skin, hair, nails, joints.
If you didn't have collagen, you'd just be a heap on the floor. Think of it like the steel framework in construction. You know, that's basically what collagen is for pretty much everything. So muscles, bones, tendons, ligaments. And we know that, you know, particularly in older people, if once they break a bone or have a serious injury, like maybe a hip or something like that, then that decline to death is just so much faster, so much sharper, because they can't exercise. And obviously exercise is so key, and moving. When I say exercise, I don't want to put anybody off and think that I'm talking about anything extreme. I just mean moving your body.
Daily moving.
But our bodies were made to move, and we don't do a lot of it these days, which is not healthy.
No, and you know, like my mum's sitting next to me on an exercise cycle right now as we speak, waiting for me to finish up the interview so I can take her for her actual training. And she's 81 and had all these things. She has to move every hour of every day in order to keep the connection from the brain, because she had brain damage going. Otherwise she goes to sleep. And then so if she was stuck in a rest home, like, you know, and stuck in the corner somewhere watching telly, she'd be in a wheelchair within 2 weeks. If I went away for 2 weeks, this is why I can't, you know, unfortunately travel and leave my mum for more than, you know, 1 to 2 days maximum, with a strict set of instructions on how to operate her. She just goes back really fast because the connections to the brain and she was paralyzed on the right side. So I have to activate that all the time, right? Because it's just a weak wiring, if you like. But her just being up, mobile, moving, even though she can't do a CrossFit workout and run a marathon, just walking around, doing the household chores, going to the gym, lifting a few weights, doing a bit of stretching, you know, within the bounds of an 81-year-old who's had this history, that's keeping her fit and resilient when something comes and hits her, like we had a GI bleed twice in the last month, unfortunately. She was able to bounce back from that because she was conditioned. She still had condition, and we deconditioned very, very quickly. And in the hospital, they've realized that now, so they do try to get people up after operations very quickly, and and that's great.
Rehabilitation mode.
Yeah, like Mum spent 18 months in a wheelchair and bed, and the deconditioning, was just so rapid and so far. And then I would do things like physically move her myself to keep the joints and things going, and didn't understand as much as I do now. I wish I'd done things a little bit different, but that kept her so that when she was able, her vestibular system came back online, she was able to stand, and she was able to start to take walks.
I'm sure you were doing your best at the time.
I was, yeah, and we learn every day. We learn, and I've made many mistakes along the way as well, but that's just part, when you don't have any options, you've got to go hard, Alan, you've been absolutely wonderful today. I've just so enjoyed this conversation. I love your team. I've been had Zoom calls with Daniel. I think he's fabulous. Shout out to Daniel. And yeah, just really proactive. And I love the sense that I get from your company is there's enough room in the sandbox for all of us to play. Like it's not a these are my little gems and I'm going to protect them.
Yeah, exactly. And it's
for
us, it's about collaboration rather than competition. If everyone's working towards the same goal, why can't we all do it together?
I love it. I absolutely love it.
If somebody thinks they have a big audience and Cert6 Activator can help them, they can approach us and we'll just, we'll work together with them. Yep. Because, that's what the idea is for. That's what it's all about. And because for us, it all comes down to the mission, and we'll take it very seriously. So extend healthy lifespan for as many people as possible. You have access to 1 million people that we don't have access to, and you think Cert6 Activator can help them, then why would we not work with those people? Because it's part of the mission.
And it's a better way of doing it than taking out big ads on Google, because it's a better way to actually educate on the actual product with people who are in the space. I'm hoping next year to get a longevity and anti-aging conference up here in New Zealand. So maybe you can come back over and visit your old friends from New Zealand and come and share.
I'm on my way.
Excellent. Right. I'll be talking to you about a few things off here. Alan, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate you and what you're doing at Do Not Age. We'll put all the links down below, and we've got affiliate links and codes and things all down in the show notes somewhere down here. Guys, look for it. Thanks very much for your time today, Alan.
Thank you, Lisa. I've really enjoyed it.